Mexico prepares to shut down parts of the economy in an attempt to stop swine flu spreading. In Iraq, a handshake signals the handover of Basra from Britain to the United States. 5 people are killed in the Netherlands after a car ploughs into crowds at a royal parade. Welcome to BBC World News Today. I'm Karen Giannoni in London. Also in this programme, tough times in the West Bank. Palestinians still wait for progress as rival groups keep talking.
Hello everyone, I'm Rico Hizon in Singapore. Glad you could join us. In business, saving Chrysler. The US president says the car maker will file for bankruptcy to secure its future.
Hello, it's 3 a.m. here in London, 9 p.m. in Mexico, where they're preparing for a 5-day shutdown of non-essential parts of the economy to combat the spread of swine flu. Businesses like restaurants and cinemas will remain closed. The Mexican government says the number of new cases of flu has stabilized. 12 people in the country are now confirmed to have died, although the disease is suspected in many more cases. Here's Adam Brooks.
Mexico appears to be on the verge of closing down. It's a bold attempt to stop the H1N1 flu virus spreading. All but essential businesses should shut for 5 days, says the government, beginning on Friday. Supermarkets and pharmacies will remain open. Police, army and media will function. But if people follow instructions, not much else. In the holiday destination of Cancun, anxious queues to leave the country. Mexico is reeling from its encounter with H1N1. North of the border, in the USA, the virus is spreading, but most of those affected are not seriously ill. That won't last, said the Centers for Disease Control today.
As we see this virus in more communities, as we see more people who are infected by this virus, we're going to continue to see a broad spectrum of disease, from milder infections to more severe infections. And unfortunately, I do expect that there will be more deaths.
The virus has made its way to Washington, D.C. in striking fashion.
We've learned that an individual who traveled to Mexico City to support the U.S. delegation that accompanied the president to Mexico City came down with flu-like symptoms associated with his work in Mexico. 3 members of the individual's family tested positive for type A influenza.
And an employee of the World Bank may have the virus too.
Now, the World Bank employee, we're told, had recently traveled to Mexico, where it's thought he may have contracted the infection. But the real concern in the United States now is no longer the virus arriving from Mexico. It's the question of how far the virus is being passed on person to person here inside US borders. That, say the experts, will be the real measure of just how big and how dangerous this outbreak is.
The vice president, a famous user of and advocate for public transport, managed to sow some confusion. He went on television and apparently garbled the authorities' travel warnings.
I would tell members of my family, and I have, I wouldn't go anywhere in confined places now. It's not that it's going to Mexico, it's you're in a confined aircraft. When one person sneezes, it goes all the way through the aircraft. That's me. I would not be at this point, if they had another way of transportation, suggesting they ride the subway.
The White House moved quickly to tell us that only if you have flu symptoms should you avoid going on public transport. But around the country, at least a dozen states now have the H1N1 flu. Some school systems are already closing down, and parents are beginning to worry that the disruption to everyday life is just beginning. Adam Brooks, BBC News, Washington.
The World Health Organization says the outbreak of swine flu is stable. Less than a week after those first deaths were confirmed in Mexico, it says there's no reason to raise the alert to the highest level. Mexico remains the worst-hit country. The BBC's Matthew Price has been out on the streets.
This shuttered door is a sign of how the health crisis is swiftly becoming an economic crisis for Mexico. Restaurants, cafes, bars, non-essential businesses have all been told they must remain closed so that people are not gathering in groups and spreading the virus. They are allowed, as many signs say, to do takeaway, but if you take a look inside this cafe, you'll see that there's absolutely no economic activity going on at all. It's estimated that every single day this city alone is losing $60 million in business. A third of economic activity has been completely frozen. As for the health crisis, it does look as if the rate of increase of the number of deaths is actually declining, but the government still says that the best advice here is for people to stay at home with their families.
Well, that's Matthew Price in Mexico City, and we'll have the very latest there live with our correspondent Stephen Gibbs in Mexico City in around 10 minutes' time.